This is the University of Wisconsin in downtown Madison, Wisconsin. On campus, the streets are bustling with bikes, mopeds, cars, buses, and many students who attend the university. Sometimes too many students. At numerous points throughout the day, students flood the streets as they transition from class to class. The problem is that the high number of pedestrians crossing the road during the 15-minute passing periods prevent vehicles from passing through the intersections. The road then becomes backed up with vehicles, adding to the problem by delaying the vehicle even more. The University of Wisconsin's Assistant Director of Housing, Sean Vilsecki, uses these intersections daily and says they can be a big problem when trying to get from place to place on campus. He goes on to describe the effects of these intersections on other departments and services of the university.
It does make things very difficult for other departments, specifically departments that do rely on the transportation pieces. Mainly, I think our waste and recycling department they're trying to clear sidewalks or lay down mulch or do snow removal where the roads are packed with students or pedestrians trying to use the crosswalks. It does make
Bikes and mopeds continue through the busy intersections by passing cars and weaving through the pedestrians crossing the street. All these things happening at once can create safety issues for all using the road. At the same time, some of the drivers of these vehicles get impatient and attempt to drive through the intersection before they are clear of pedestrians.
Our main objectives during this project are to analyze the corridor between North Charter at Linden Street and North Charter at Observatory Drive, while promoting pedestrian and vehicle road use compliance at these intersections, ultimately to determine the optimal solution that will both improve efficiency for vehicles and reduce safety risks for pedestrians. These intersections are not as unsafe as they are inefficient. Our analysis focuses on improving efficiency and minimizing future safety concerns. According to Chuck Strasser, the bicycle and pedestrian coordinator for the University of Wisconsin Transportation Services, safety is not necessarily the main concern here.
Both those intersections are extremely chaotic, but chaos doesn't necessarily mean that they're unsafe. But I looked specifically for crashes at the intersections of Charter and Linden or Charter and Observatory, and I could find no reported crashes at those intersections between bicycles and motor vehicles.
However, the heightened pedestrian presence is still cause for safety concerns. In order to address these concerns, we look to the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration. They state that pedestrians can be more predictable by crossing at crosswalks and obeying signals. Additionally, pedestrians can pay attention to traffic moving around them. This means not texting or being distracted while crossing. Chuck Strasser goes on to further elaborate on what both pedestrians and vehicles can do to reduce safety concerns.
Motor vehicle operators to actually yield to pedestrians in the crosswalk and to come to a complete stop before turning right, for example. We could try and get bicyclists to follow the same rules of the road as the cars. We could try to get pedestrians to actually use the crosswalks and to use the crosswalks attentively instead of being oblivious to their surroundings. Generally speaking, it takes more than one mistake by more than one road user for a crash to occur. So if you can minimize the number of risks that everyone is taking, then you also minimize the likelihood of a crash taking place.
The data we collected was pedestrian peak hour factor and car peak hour factors at the intersections of Charter at Linden and Charter at Observatory. We collected the data for both of these intersections from 10:45 to 11 a.m., which is a passing time. We collected the data by watching video of the intersections and counting the number of cars while estimating the number of pedestrians. The 15-minute volumes during the passing times at Charter and Linden were 117 cars, which includes mopeds and bikes that ride on the road, and 750 pedestrians. The 15-minute volumes at Charter and Observatory were 71 cars and 780 pedestrians.
As a result of our data analysis, it became clear that our solutions needed to center around changing and hopefully better controlling pedestrian movements rather than focusing on vehicle movements. Our first solution involves a stop sign controlled intersection with fully actuated pedestrian-only crossing signals. Stop signs will be placed on all lanes of incoming traffic to provide the level of vehicle control necessary during passing periods. Currently, there are stop signs on Observatory and Linden, but not on Charter Street. Next, pedestrian crossing signals will be installed at both intersections. With fully actuated signals, crossings on all sides of the intersections will be controlled. these signals will contain countdown timing for the walk signal. During data collection, we found that it took an average of 8 seconds for a single pedestrian to cross the street. We therefore decided to make countdown timing 10 seconds to account for a clearance interval of 2 seconds. There will also be countdown timing for the time until next crossing. With the stop sign and pedestrian approach, vehicle flow through the intersection during 15-minute passing periods will not exhibit standstill conditions as is currently the case. Pedestrian movements will be contained to a single street at any given time, rather than allowing for crossings of both streets simultaneously. The effectiveness of the solution depends largely on the uncontrollable nature of humans. Crossing signals are commonly disobeyed by pedestrians who simply choose to ignore the "don't walk" hand signal. Therefore, the level of pedestrian obedience to these crossing signals will dictate whether or not this approach is effective. According to the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, what we know is that pedestrians and drivers do not obey laws and signals consistently, and many often use cell phones and music players while walking. Drawbacks of this solution include the large dependence on human behavior and the permanent interruption of traffic flow that would result. Our second solution involves a very rudimentary means of pedestrian control. Jumping back to the time when we were in grade school, crossing guards were used to allow for the safe crossing of children during the limited duration of time in the mornings and afternoons when children were going to and from school. This solution closely mirrors that of the college student crossing issue at our intersection of interests. With crossing guards, the additional stop signs installed on Charter Street would not be needed. Rather, the crossing guards at each intersection will manually hold up a stop sign to the direction of traffic he or she intends to halt. Through this control method, the traffic flow will only be interrupted during the short passing periods, while during the rest of the hour and on weekends and weeknights when classes are not in session, traffic will not be altered in any way. The crossing guards would ultimately be local police officers who could easily get to and from these intersections. They would only be on duty during the short 15-minute intervals of pedestrian congestion, and only on weekdays would they be needed. On Fort Myers Beach in Florida, a crossing guard was tested at this busy intersection at the start of this year. During the trial run, both tourists and locals addressed the added level of safety they felt while crossing this intersection.
Crossing guard Nello Cernoia helps people cross at one of Fort Myers Beach's busiest, even deadly intersections.
Be careful, sir. Come on. Everybody's safe and sound. I'm not here to direct traffic. I'm here to stop traffic so people can get across.
There are many potential shortcomings to the solution as well. While the non-permanent nature of using crossing guards is an advantage in this case, this may cause a great deal of confusion over who has the right of way during times when guards are off duty. There's also the concern for safety of these crossing guards that are working at these very chaotic intersections. Also, implementation of this solution would require many logistical decisions, such as the exact timing of when guards would be needed on duty, how many guards would be on duty at a time, who would be qualified for such positions, etc. Lastly, there's always the need for economic considerations of the feasibility of hiring these guards.
After reviewing both of our solutions, we would not currently recommend number 1 because for the vehicle and pedestrian volumes at these intersections, signals are not warranted by the MUTCD. Also, there's currently a lack of data related to the design and implementation of our proposed pedestrian-only crossing signals.
There's also an operational concern, as vehicles are not required to wait at a stop sign like they are at a red light. Lastly, there will be a startup loss time of 2 seconds per vehicle based on the perception reaction time standard established in Transportation Engineering and Introduction, associated with stopping at these stop signs. This will decrease the overall efficiency at these intersections.
Therefore, we recommend solution number 2. The use of crossing guards on Fort Myers Beach provides an example of a successful implementation of such a solution as a means of controlling pedestrian crossings. During this trial run, the crossing guard helped 114 pedestrians cross in the hour and a half of observation. In terms of economic consideration, it costs an approximate $2,300 to hire the guard for the 12-day trial run period.
This solution relies less on the human factor element, as people are more likely to obey an actual person telling them when to walk and when not to walk, as opposed to a digital signal. Safety risks will considerably be minimized when guards are present, as tourists and locals both address the added level of safety they felt during crossing. Lastly, the non-permanent nature of this control mechanism would only affect traffic flow during 15 minutes of the hour.
There's been such a good response.
But it seems to be working.